Welcome to Hood Politics. In this episode, I will be discussing the story of Tavin Price. The facts of the case are as follows. Los Angeles is like a maze, comprised of invisible boundaries, coded languages, and dress codes. One street can dictate whether or not a certain hat, phrase, or color is deemed okay. Even for someone who isn't gang affiliated, the politics can mean life or death. In one incident, on May 29, 2015 at 10:48 a.m., a woman named Jennifer Rivers pulled into a car wash located near the intersection of Crenshaw Boulevard and Florence Avenue. Also in the vehicle was Jennifer's 19-year-old son, Tavin Price, and a woman named Hillary Wade. It's important to note that Tavin was also called Tevin by his family and friends. The group was on their way to the beach when Tavin asked Jennifer to swing by the smoke shop because he wanted to buy a pack of cigarettes. The smoke shop was located directly in front of the car wash, so Jennifer decided to wash her car while they were there. As Jennifer began washing her car, Hillary went into the smoke shop, where a man named Dwight Smith asked for her phone number. Dwight was a member of the Rolling 60s Crips. Hillary declined and left the store, but returned shortly afterwards with Tavin. Tavin was wearing red Chuck Taylors with red shoelaces and a red t-shirt. Dwight told Tavin, "I'm 6'0", you got on all this red." He then asked Tavin where he was from, meaning what gang did he claim. Tavin and Hillary told Dwight that he wasn't from a gang. Dwight then told Tavin to take off his shoes. Hillary said no and went on to explain that Tavin was mentally disabled. Dwight responded that he didn't care. Tavin was less than 5 feet tall and weighed around 100 pounds. According to his mother, he had the mental capacity of a 12-year-old. Tavin had been involved in a car accident at the age of 3 and sustained a brain injury. The conversation ended and Hillary and Tavin made their way back to the washing bay where Jennifer was washing her car. Hillary got into the back seat while Tavin stood by the car door and told his mother about the confrontation in the smoke shop. About 5 minutes later, Jennifer heard multiple gunshots. When she turned around, she saw a hooded man standing nearby. Tavin had been shot 4 times in his back and chest. Jennifer yelled, "You just shot my son," and began chasing the shooter as he fled the scene. The shooter got away, and when Jennifer returned to her vehicle, she saw Tavin collapsing. She stayed with him and held him until help arrived. Police responded to the scene, and an ambulance transported Tavin to a nearby hospital where he was rushed into surgery. At 12:46 p.m., Tavin Price was pronounced dead. Tavin was killed just 3 days shy of his 20th birthday. Jennifer was approached at the scene by a woman named Antheus Jarrett. Antheus called Jennifer a snitch and told her that she would make sure that there were no surveillance videos. Jennifer immediately spoke to officers about securing the surveillance footage. Antheus was arrested and charged with witness intimidation and accessory to murder after the fact, shortly after the shooting. Detectives arrived at the scene and began their investigation. They were able to pull the surveillance videos from inside of the smoke shop, as well as the car wash and a nearby beauty supply store. The video, accompanied by witness accounts, gave detectives a full scope of the shooting and the events leading up to it. Shortly after Jennifer, Hillary, and Tavin arrived at the car wash, Dwight and a man named Kevin Johnson arrived at the smoke shop in a black Lexus. Kevin was also a member of the Rolling 60s and went by the nickname Tiny Bang. Kevin exited the driver's seat and went into the smoke shop. He bought a cigarette and stood inside the shop for a few minutes. Dwight walked into the smoke shop around the same time Hillary did, and that's when he proceeded to ask for her number. Dwight bought a drink and stood in the shop with Kevin. Hillary returned to the shop along with Tavin shortly afterwards, and that's when the confrontation regarding Tavin wearing red took place. After Tavin and Hillary left the shop, Dwight, Kevin, and Antheus could be seen talking while looking out the window of the smoke shop and pointing at Tavin and Hillary multiple times as they walked back to the washing bay. The three then exited the smoke shop. Kevin returned to the black Lexus, exited the parking lot, and headed east on Florence Avenue. He then made a left turn and headed north. As Kevin drove away, Antheus re-entered the shop while Dwight stayed outside and looked toward Tavin, Jennifer, and Hillary. He then walked back towards the shop while talking with his cousin, a woman named Letitia Poole. After talking to Letitia, Dwight walked away from the shop, jogged across Florence Avenue, and continued north on 11th Avenue. Letitia then took out 2 cell phones and appeared to manipulate them as she watched Dwight leave the area. She then entered the smoke shop. Shortly afterwards, a hooded man came into view. He walked very slowly southbound on 11th Avenue, crossed Florence Avenue, and headed toward the car wash. Letitia exited the smoke shop and began walking towards Florence Avenue at the same time as the man stepped onto the sidewalk, but she quickly turned around and walked back towards the car wash with the man. At the same time, Dwight came into view, walking southbound on 11th Avenue. He stopped in a parking lot located north of Florence Avenue, across the street from the car wash, and began pacing back and forth. The hooded man approached the washing bay where Tavin, Jennifer, and Hillary were, raised his left arm, and opened fire multiple times. Letitia then ran back toward the smoke shop shop, and Dwight ran east on Florence Avenue towards 10th Avenue. The gunman fled back across Florence Avenue and ran northbound on 11th Avenue. Video taken 2 blocks from the scene, 25 seconds after the shooting, shows a black Lexus driving north on 11th Avenue and turning east on 67th Street while running a stop sign. The same vehicle was spotted parked on Florence Avenue. Kevin returned to the scene on foot with another man just as the ambulance and fire truck were arriving. About a minute later, he left the scene and headed north on 11th Avenue. All of these events, from Jennifer pulling into the car wash to the shooter fleeing, took place in a span of around 10 minutes. In the following days, officers began speaking to witnesses and receiving numerous tips about the shooting. Kevin Johnson was arrested a couple of weeks after the shooting on June 17th. Dwight Smith was arrested the following day, and a man named Kanasho Johns was arrested a few days later on June 23rd. Kanasho was a member of the 5'8" neighborhood Crips and went by the nickname Tiny S-Bone. The 60s and 5'8s are close allies. Investigators believe that he was the shooter, and after the murder, Kanasho had fled to Texas and was apprehended just outside of Houston by an LAPD and FBI joint task force. He was extradited back to Los Angeles shortly afterwards. Dwight Smith, Kevin Johnson, and Kanasho Johns were all charged with murder for the death of Tavin Price, as well as gun and gang enhancement charges. All of them later pled not guilty. Letitia was questioned about the shooting. She admitted to being in the smoke shop and seeing Dwight and Kevin talking to Tavin and Hillary, but said she couldn't hear what they were saying. She went on to tell detectives that she saw Kevin leave, but then saw him parked on Florence Avenue around the time of the shooting. She also told detectives that Kanasho was the man she met at the curb as he crossed Florence Avenue. She went on to say that shortly after she saw him, she heard gunshots. Officers showed Letitia stills from the surveillance video, and she identified pictures of Kevin and Kanasho. Letitia said she knew Kanasho because he lived in her apartment complex and she seen him on a regular basis, but she didn't know if he was a member of the Rolling 60s. She was also shown a picture of Antheus, but said she didn't recognize her and didn't remember her being in the smoke shop on the day of the shooting. Letitia told detectives about a conversation she had with Dwight the day after the shooting. He told her that he was scared and that he wasn't banging on Tavin, but just warning him about wearing red in that neighborhood. Letitia passed Kanasho in lockup on her way to the interview with detectives. He told her don't say nothing. Detectives interviewed Kevin about the shooting. He admitted to being at the smoke shop and knowing Dwight, but said he really didn't mess with him like that and he had bought weed from him before. He denied saying anything to Tavin and told detectives that he didn't hear what Dwight said to Tavin and Hillary because he was too busy thinking about getting his girlfriend's car fixed. She owned a black Lexus. He went on to say that he didn't see Kanasho at the smoke shop on the day of the shooting and that Kanasho had never been inside of the Lexus. He also said that he didn't know Antheus by name but recognized her and that she was there on the day of the shooting, but he wasn't sure if she had been in the smoke shop. Kevin said when he left the car wash, he headed to the repair shop. When investigators asked him about traveling in the opposite direction of the repair shop, Kevin told them that he went around the block and circled around to the repair shop because a motorcycle cop was always in the area and he didn't have a license. Kevin said he saw a helicopter in the air and started receiving numerous calls and knew something had happened. He told detectives that he didn't drive the Lexus to the scene and may have gotten a ride from a friend but didn't remember. He said he wanted to make sure the victim wasn't someone that he knew. After the interview, Kevin was placed in a jail cell with an informant who was wearing a wire. Kevin told the informant that he wasn't involved in the shooting, didn't say anything to Tavin at the smoke shop, and didn't pick anyone up or drop anyone off. He said the police did have his phone, but it was turned off and didn't have anything on it except a few texts from his girlfriend. He told the informant that he had the same phone from the day of the murder up until the day before he was arrested. Kevin said the weapon was out of the hood and the murderer shot 4 rounds. He also heard that the camera wires on the market across the street were cut on the day of the murder. He said he was worried that investigators would tell Dwight that he fingered him as the shooter because he told them that he bought weed from him. In an unexpected turn of events, Dwight decided to cooperate with investigators and he worked out a plea deal with the district attorney's office. In exchange for his testimony against Kevin and Kanasho, he would be able to plead guilty to the lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter and receive leniency during his sentencing. During the trial, prosecutors painted Kevin and Kanasho as cold-blooded killers with no regard for human life and presented a stack of evidence to the jury to support those claims. Investigators showed the jury surveillance video from the day of the shooting. Letitia's interview with detectives was played for the jury. including her identifying Kevin and Kanasho from the surveillance video. Although during the trial, she testified that she didn't remember if she saw Kevin at the smoke shop or see him drive away. She also testified that she didn't know where Kanasho was going or coming from after she saw him cross Florence Avenue. Dwight testified on behalf of the prosecution. He told the court that he joined the Rolling 60s at the age of 15 or 16 and went by the nickname Tiny Manson. He stated that he was a gang member and not a gangbanger, and explained that a gangbanger actively commits crimes on behalf of the gang, while a gang member is just a part of the gang. He said he sold weed at the smoke shop and had been convicted for selling drugs in the past. Dwight identified Kevin and Kanasho by their gang monikers at trial and stated that he knew Kanasho for 2 years and didn't know him or Kevin that well, but he didn't have any problems with them. Dwight stated that on the day of the murder, he was standing on 11th Avenue talking to his girlfriend when Kevin pulled up and asked him if he wanted to go with him to get an estimate to repair the Lexus, which had damage to the rear panel on the driver's side. Dwight's uncle knew the mechanic that Kevin wanted to use, so he figured he could get him a good deal on the repair. After visiting the repair shop, Kevin and Dwight went to the smoke shop. Kevin went inside to buy cigarettes, while Dwight stayed in the car until he saw Hillary. He recalled seeing Antheus in the shop as well while he was talking to Hillary. Dwight testified that Hillary left the shop and returned with Tavin a few moments later. He stated that Tavin was wearing red shoes with red shoelaces and a red shirt. He asked Tavin where he was from, and Tavin replied nowhere. Dwight said he told Tavin that he should take off his shoes because it wasn't safe for him to wear them there. Hillary told him that Tavin wasn't from anywhere and he was kind of slow. Dwight told Hillary that she shouldn't have him up here like that because there's too much going on up here. Dwight said he didn't beat Tavin down because he didn't think he was a threat and Tavin just didn't know any better. He insisted that he only banged on him to warn him and didn't want the situation to escalate. Dwight admitted to being the only person to bang on Tavin and stated that Kevin didn't say anything to Tavin or Hillary. After Tavin and Hillary left the smoke shop, Kevin told Dwight that Tavin was lying about his gang affiliation and that he knew him from jail and had fought with him in camp. He went on to say that Tavin was from Inglewood Families. The Inglewood Families are a blood gang located south of Rolling 60s territory. The 60s and the Families are bitter rivals and their war has been constant for over 40 years. Kevin told Dwight to watch out because he thought Tavin may have had a gun and then said he was going to get a gun. He got into the Lexus and drove away. Dwight stated that he didn't take him seriously and continued to hang around the smoke shop. He said that he did walk towards the car wash to see if Tavin did in fact have a gun because he was concerned for his safety. He stated that he told Letitia that Tavin may be armed, but neither of them told anyone that he was a rival gang member. He testified that he left the car wash after talking to Letitia and headed north on 11th Avenue when he saw Kanasho exiting the Lexus with a hoodie on. He stated that he was concerned something bad was going to happen and it would be blamed on him because he's the one that banged on Tavin. Dwight stated that he didn't see a gun but was still concerned something bad was going to happen, and he told Kanasho, no, don't do nothing to him, y'all are going to jail, but Kanasho ignored him. Kevin told Kanasho, go kill him, go kill him. Dwight stated that Kanasho began walking towards the car wash and he asked him to come back. Kevin told Dwight, let him go kill him. Dwight said he continued to urge Kanasho not to do it, but when Kanasho crossed Florence Avenue, he stayed in the parking lot and watched him enter the car wash. Dwight asked Kevin, why did you do that? Why would you go get him? Kevin responded, watch out, get away from my car. Dwight told the court that he saw Kanasho shoot Tavin. He heard between 3 or 4 shots and saw Tavin fall to the ground. He then ran east on Florence Avenue, then north on 10th Avenue to his grandma's apartment. He stated that he didn't see Kevin or Kanasho anymore after the shooting. Dwight testified that he seen Hillary on Fig in the past and that she was a sex worker. Fig is short for Figueroa, which is a street known for such activity. Dwight denied saying that he was 6'0" and that he didn't care when Hillary told him that Tavin was slow. He went on to say that he only stayed and watched the shooting because he was trying to prevent it. The court did find numerous inconsistencies in Dwight's story. During his initial interview with detectives, he told them that he hadn't been a gang member for 9 years and denied going by the nickname Wheezy. He also admitted to lying to detectives by saying that he didn't bang on Tavin or tell him to take off his shoes. He also told them that he never approached Tavin or said anything to him. He also never mentioned Kevin telling him that he believed Tavin had a gun. Dwight initially told investigators that he left the area at the same time Kevin did, when in fact he stayed and talked to Letitia for a while and looked over at Tavin multiple times before actually leaving the area. He also denied having any tattoos when in fact he had a R60 tattoo on his left hand and a neighborhood Crip tattoo on his right hand. When asked about this inconsistency, he stated that he forgot about those tattoos because they were so old. He also stated that when he first saw Kanasho, he was walking next to Kevin's car and that Kevin didn't have anyone in the car with him and he never saw them speak to each other. When he was asked if he ever saw Kanasho in Kevin's car, he said he believed Kevin went to pick him up. Later, he said that he did in fact see Kanasho getting out of Kevin's car. He also said that the Lexus was at a red light at the corner corner of 71st Street and 11th Avenue, but there isn't a stoplight there. Dwight was assaulted numerous times while in jail by members of the Rolling 60s for cooperating with investigators. Also during the trial, Jennifer was approached outside of the courthouse by 3 female members of the Rolling 60s. One of them called her a snitch and they threatened to beat her. Tavin's family and friends wore red shoes as a display of solidarity. Ultimately, Kevin Johnson and Kanasho Johns were found guilty with the murder of Tavin Price, as well as gun and gang enhancement charges. Kevin Johnson was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison, and Kanasho Johns was sentenced to 53 years to life in prison. Due to his cooperation during the investigation and testimony during the trial, Dwight Smith was sentenced to 12 years in prison. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe.